Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, released in 1999, ran 2 hours 17 minutes. Seeing the length of the film doesn't give me a good feeling, but hopefully I am remembering wrong. I've never felt like the long scrolling text was necessary. Who was it for? After the text, we enter space and see, well, cool spaceships. A small ship enters a larger spacecraft. This is when we see Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor for the first time, or should I say, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. A droid has been sent to see the Jedi since the aliens on board are scared to meet with them. These Republic ambassadors, which is what the Separatists are calling the Jedi, a bunch of droids attack Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, so the aliens say they must be dead by now. But nope. The Jedi are fighting all of the droids sent at them. The variety of droids on this ship is fun. When things die down, the Jedi realize that the droids are going to invade, so they hide among the invasion force. Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman have arrived. Keira is pretending to be the queen when really Natalie Portman is Queen Amidala. But the queen is faking being some royal servant, I don't know, to protect herself or something. Senator Palpatine tries to talk the queen, but not really the queen. But his communication fails. The queen refuses to take action that will lead to war. The planet that is being invaded is very lush, but this is where Jar Jar Binks gets introduced, and I find him instantly annoying. Who thought this was a good idea? This guy is just, bad. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are doing the best they can to make this seem serious, while at the same time Jar Jar is making that job super challenging. If you're here for just clean and popping visuals, then this movie has you covered. But if you care about the story and the tone, you're going to be let down because Jar Jar takes the Jedi to his home that he was banished from. The ruler gifts Jar Jar to the Jedi as a guide to get them through this Gundan territory of Naboo. This makes me worry about the rest of the film since Jar Jar is now set to be around for the whole thing since he's, gifted to Qui-Gon for saving him. If only the Gundan speaking style was different, and by that I mean not annoying, this thing would be better. Other than Gundams, the aliens speak in a way that doesn't drive me insane. If George or whoever made the Gungan choice would have given this vocal style to an alien race that was being treated as the villain, at least I would be disliking the right aliens. We see a cool sea monster killing another sea monster adventure, but to me, that doesn't necessarily make it okay. Like, it was a cool visual, but Jar Jar so annoying, and I think all of this could be easily cut to save time. The Fate Queen refuses to cooperate with the invading force, but they are confident she will fold. The Jedi make easy work of the droids and free the Queen and her crew, so the actual Queen does get freed. Queenie plans to plead her case to the Galactic Senate. She thinks Palpatine can assist her. Not smart, guys. He's the real big bad, pulling all the strings. The Jedi cut down more droids. Then the heroes escape with a ship. When Obi-Wan tells Jar Jar to stay out of the way, I feel like that would have been a great way to write him off, or at least lessen his presence within the film. The ship got hit hard, so the heroes must make a pit stop to try and get the ship fixed on the planet Tatooine. The Senate has no hold on this planet as it is under the control of the Hutt. Hello, Ray Park. His Darth Maul is such a slick-looking character This film has an obnoxious number of unnecessary wipes. It is like they just bought a new graphics kit and think, we must use all of them to go from scene to scene. When Qui-Gon and Jar Jar set out to find what the ship needs for repairs, the Queen insists on going, but she's pretending to be the Queen's servant. While going towards a junkyard, Jar Jar steps in poo, and this is... I just don't like the potty humor we get with the Jar Jar character, since he's so childish and frustrating. Anakin Skywalker asks Padme Amidala, the Queen, who is pretending to not be the Queen, if she is an angel, and it pops me because the kid is innocent. Well, oddly enough, since he's, I don't know, lived a hard life. Again, nothing can ever be taken seriously as long as Jar Jar is in the scene. He always must do something stupid. Watto, a very interesting alien who owns both the junkyard and the Skywalkers, tells Qui-Gon, "Mind tricks don't work on me, only money." That was a good line. Another pointless wipe, and Sebulba attacks Jar Jar. That was nice. If only he'd have made it so that Jar Jar couldn't speak, that would have been even better. Young Skywalker takes Qui-Gon, R2, and the Queen to his, I'm going to say house for lack of a better word, but since he and his mother are slaves, here is where we meet a barely together C-3PO. I really think Anakin should have been played by an actor much older than Jake Lloyd from Jingle All the Way, because it is creepy watching him and Padme flirt. Palpatine and Maul are much cooler than the good guys. Anakin saying he had a dream, he was a Jedi, and that he returned to this planet to free the slaves was alright. But again, the kid is just not good here. I looked it up, and Natalie Portman was 17 in 1998 playing a 14-year-old, which in and of itself is weird. And Jake was 10 and playing 9. If only they'd have cast a 17-year-old Hayden Christensen then, or when this movie was being made, then the flirting wouldn't have been weird, given that him and Portman would have been the same age. This is all completely off topic. Anakin thinks that he can win the race with a pod that he's been putting together with scrap to help the Queen and the Jedi and the robot. So he proposes that Qui-Gon make a bet with Watto, because folks on this planet just can't help themselves but to make wagers. And so Qui-Gon Jinn is betting that Skywalker can win a prize enough to be able to spend that money to fund the repairs of the ship. Mama Skywalker gives her blessing to the Anakin to do the race. The Queen, who is pretending to not be the Queen, is grumpy that they're not listening to her and they're leaving the fate of the galaxy into the hands of a child to win a race. I'm confused by the idea that the mom of Anakin says that he had no father. That seems very out of place. Anakin getting clowned by the other kids sucks, and C-3PO saying that the Jar Jar creature is odd makes me wonder if the creative team, I don't know whether it be George Lucas or somebody else, realized partway through that Jar Jar Binks sucks, but they had gone so far that they couldn't remove him. Qui-Gon stealing Anakin's blood for a midi-chlorian count test is another creepy thing about this movie. Taking a kid's blood is just weird to me. They find out that he has 20,000 midi-chlorians. Woohoo, don't care. That seems like something that was just pulled out of thin air, midi-chlorians. Darth Maul arrives on Tatooine on race day. Watto, the greedy junkyard owner, can't resist gambling, and Qui-Gon places a wager with the speeder he doesn't own that if Anakin loses, Watto gets it, but when he wins, then the Skywalkers are freed. Watto says one speeder for one person, and so if Anakin wins, he can be free. C-3PO wants nothing to do with going to space, and the Queen is extra uneasy when she finds out that Anakin has never finished a race before. The aliens look very cool. I said it earlier, if visuals are what you are here for, this has got you covered. More farting, this time a creature farts in the face of Jar Jar. I'd love to get the raw footage and cut as much of the Gundams out as possible. This is jumping ahead of the second and third films, but the franchise cuts Binks big time, both into and 3. I need none of his so-called humor. Due to Sebulba tampering with Anakin's vehicle, he starts in last place. The race itself is well done, but the Tusken Raiders and Jabba the Hutt being included felt forced, as if they are here just so that adults could be like, oh, I know that, that thing right there. Sebulba killing all of his competition is Skywalker's only chance of winning, and wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what happened. The only part of the pod race I'd cut would be Jar Jar giving his opinion in the crowd. I have no need for that. Anakin wins. How was it helpful to have Jabba fall asleep during the race? That just makes the race seem bad and boring, and I don't understand how, other than maybe thinking it's funny, how that helps. Is Obi-Wan jealous? Or why exactly does he seem irritated with Qui-Gon? Is it because he keeps picking up these strays like Jar Jar and now Anakin? I'd for sure add Skywalker yelling out, "Yippee!" to my list of cuts, as that felt so very childish. I get it, he's a kid, but his second reaction was much better, which was him not wanting to leave his mother in slavery. Jake Lloyd is saved from being the worst thing in this movie by the presence of Jar Jar Binks being so abysmal. Anakin dodging an attack from Darth Maul leads to Maul and Qui-Gon in a quick lightsaber battle in a sandstorm. More of this and less bathroom jokes, please. Queen pretend servant girl listening to a distress call feels like it might be her giving up their location. I could be wrong, but couldn't this message be tracked? More creepy flirting that could have been fine with the correct casting. It is interesting to me that both Palpatine and Padme are lying about who they are throughout this film. Qui-Gon Jinn is in a rush to speak with the Jedi Council, so Jar Jar and Anakin go with the Queen and crew, along with Senator Palpatine, who is very good at making people believe that he is benevolent. Anyone familiar with the franchise knows that Palpatine is no babyface at all. The young, fake Queen is so easily manipulated. Nice to see Samuel L. Jackson's Mace Windu, along with Yoda. These two are not just the most vocal members of the Jedi Council, but probably the coolest. Qui-Gon thinks Anakin was conceived by the Force itself, which is why Skywalker has 20,000 midi-chlorians in him. Anakin and Padme say goodbye, as he is off to see the wizard. The council, since Qui-Gon believes that he is the chosen one to bring balance to the Force. At the same time, we get a bunch of political jargon which feels like a waste of time. This Senate nonsense is just not fun. The big takeaway is Palpatine is getting more power. He is going from senator to chancellor, woohoo. Yoda reads Anakin and he feels his fear, which is a big bad thing since fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Palpatine won the Supreme Chancellor position. Queen and crew aren't sure Palpatine can get the job done, new job title or not, so they're heading back home to Naboo. The longer this goes, the less I am into it. This should have never been as long as it is. It's dragging out, and so much could have been cut. The Jedi will not allow Qui-Gon to have two learners, so he wants to set Obi-Wan free and take on only Skywalker. The Jedi put off the decision as they send the three to protect the Queen and her people as they travel to her now invaded home planet. Obi-Wan is worried that Anakin might be dangerous, but Qui-Gon believes in the midi-chlorians. So odd. Insufferable Jar Jar gets told by Padme that he is needed, and I get very frustrated. Obi-Wan apologizes to Qui-Gon for questioning him, but honestly, Kenobi is on the same side as the Jedi Council. I'm not sure he should even be sorry. Jar Jar takes the Jedi and the Royals to the Gundam's most holy place. Not a great plan, Binks. The real queen, Padme Amidala, reveals herself to the ruler of the Gundams, and he is pleased that she has told him the truth and agrees to help. The Queen and the Jedi seem willing to sacrifice all the Gundams, which doesn't feel very hero-like to me. Darth Maul is either rather short or the aliens he is around are extra tall. The biggest takeaway for me from the entire movie is that it is pretty, but without much substance. The movie often feels like it is talking down to the audience as if we can't understand simple things. Anakin taking cover from an attack in a spaceship is so contrived, and it is extra dumb that Qui-Gon tells him not to leave the cockpit, which feels like such a setup for ridiculousness. The Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul lightsaber fight is great, outside of the fact that the movie keeps leaving the saber fight for the Jar Jar and his crew's ground fight with a bunch of droids, and also showing a spaceship fight. The lack of focus might be the worst part of the movie. That or the terrible jokes, one or the other. If Maul, Jin, and Kenobi was the sole plot of the ending, I'd have been much happier, but Jar Jar and Anakin get so much of the end time that this to me is just a fail of a film. 1 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed Maul's arrogance while fighting both Jedi. Qui-Gon's end was needed for Obi-Wan agreeing to train Anakin, who he had very recently doubted. Makes sense because of the loss of Qui-Gon. The Anakin stopping all the droids and not knowing it and allowing the Gundams to celebrate a victory that they didn't earn were both very irritating. The Jedi Council granted Obi-Wan Kenobi the title of Jedi Master. While it was okay, it just felt hollow in this failure of a film. Mace and Yoda wonder if Darth Maul was the master or the apprentice to close things out. That was a decent hook. I just want Star Wars Attack of the Clones to be a major improvement from The Phantom Menace. Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones was released in 2002 and ran 2 hours and 22 minutes. More dumb scrolling text. I read it, but feel like I didn't need to. We see Padme Amidala, who is no longer queen, but now in the Senate, which is weird since we're mixing up different forms of government. But I should just let it go. The former queen's ship goes boom when it lands. This one is starting out quick. Let's keep up the pace and hope it doesn't drag. The Jedi Council are meeting with the Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. How do they not know he is the big bad? That's a big question I have. Yoda says that the dark side clouds everything, which seems as if that is the creative team trying to justify the Jedi not knowing. Mace Windu says that Count Dooku, a former Jedi, couldn't kill anyone, which comes off very hollow, given that Obi-Wan killed Darth Maul in the prior film. Palpatine requests the Jedi bolster up Amidala's security since her life was just threatened. Skywalker and Kenobi are assigned the mission. When we hear Anakin and Obi-Wan talking, they acknowledge that it has been 10 years since Anakin has seen Padme. This further illustrates my point from the first movie, how Jake Lloyd was the wrong choice, and if they'd have picked Hayden from the start, the 10-year gap wouldn't have been needed, and the flirting wouldn't have been weird. Jar Jar is with Padme's crew. Thankfully, he has been tamed down, which is a big improvement. The would-be assassins are coming up with a plan B since the bomb was a no-go. Anakin and Padme are setting a trap, and she is the bait. Skywalker can't sleep. He has nightmares of his mother dying. Is this because he didn't free her, or that she is actually dying? I'm not sure. Obi-Wan warns Anakin to mind his thoughts as the hired gun makes a second attempt on the former queen's life. Obi-Wan and Anakin debate Palpatine as Padme is getting ready to be attacked by a creature dropped into her bedroom. Skywalker thinks that the Supreme Chancellor is a good man, and this just shows how dumb Anakin is. Kenobi and Skywalker get in the room before Padme Amidala gets killed. Anakin uses lightsaber to stop the thing from killing the former queen as Obi-Wan jumps through a window in pursuit of the attacker who had dropped the thing into the room. Thankfully, Skywalker gets below Obi-Wan with a speeder as he is falling. They banter and it is fun. The whole chase is good stuff. They go through an electrified like fence thing, and then there's a cool shortcut where Anakin is getting a lecture from Obi-Wan, and then he jumps out of the speeder. Anakin using his lightsaber to cut into the speeder was cool, but now he and the changeling are going down. Skywalker falls away before the speeder crashes. Now it's a foot race. Obi-Wan catches up to Anakin and they enter a bar or nightclub type thing. The Jedi are having no luck figuring out who's after Padme. Watching this makes me want to rewatch Jumper. If I remember right, I think Hayden was fun in that. The Jedi catch the changeling, but the assassin gets got by another assassin's toxic dart. Tale as old as time. Well, back at the Jedi Council, they split up the team of Obi-Wan and Anakin, giving each their own mission. Skywalker is now Padme's solo Jedi guard, as Kenobi is being sent to investigate the toxic dart and where it originated from. While in the first movie, it felt creepy that Padme seemed to be flirting with the child, now she tells Anakin not to look at her in a flirty way, which is extra strange. She says she'll always see the kid when she looks at him. If only Anakin was never that kid, this would be far less weird. If he had strong connection to the Force at 15 or 16 instead of 9, I just don't see what the problem would have been. You could say, oh, the midi-chlorians helped him tap into yada yada whatever, and, 15 or 16-year-old pod racing, okay, fine. And then you don't have to have kids making fun of the lead kid because he's a dork, because he is. Obi-Wan telling Anakin not to do anything without talking to him or the Jedi Council first for sure will not come to pass. Why do they insist on the needless transitions? Kenobi going for information at a fun, 50s diner feels like a friendlier version of that original canteen scene from the Star Wars before it was called A New Hope. Obi-Wan finds out that the dart came from a place called El Camino. Just Camino. Camino is a cloner place outside the law. When Kenobi goes to find the planet, it has been wiped from the Jedi archive. Anakin and the former queen speak of unconditional love. He is so into her, and clearly she is fighting her feelings, which, at this point, who cares? You and Hayden are basically the same age, or definitely much closer than you and Jake were, so just let it happen. Yoda teaching a bunch of young Jedi gets interrupted by Obi-Wan not knowing how to find a missing planet, and one of the younglings comes up with the idea that the archive data was deleted, and of course the big government will not fess up to the mess up. Those are my thoughts, not the kids. Amidala says to Anakin that she was the youngest queen ever elected, and this mixing up of political systems is so, nonsensical. Also, the movie not staying with a singular story is irritating. Anakin and Padme having an argument in front of the new queen about which of them is in charge is awkward. Obi-Wan uses the young Jedi's theory to find the missing planet of Kamino, and the alien life forms here are very traditional looking aliens, but I like the design. According to the Prime Minister of Kamino, the Jedi ordered the clones they are working on growing over 10 years ago. When we pop back over to Padme and Anakin, they're no longer at odds. Skywalker explains how he prefers her homeworld over his own. The former queen kisses the Jedi, but quickly says she shouldn't have as they continue to go over what they like. Padme is taken aback by the idea that Anakin is cool with the idea of a dictatorship. Kenobi figuring out the clone army being built for the Jedi Council are all cloned from one assassin, Jango Fett, a bounty hunter whose one condition to being cloned was that he get to have an unaltered clone of his own, his son Boba Fett. Obi-Wan believes this bounty hunter was the one who took out the changeling as he and Skywalker attempted to figure out the plot to kill the former Queen Amidala. If only the movie had grouped all of the Anakin and Padme stuff together and made a nice little montage of time passing, I'd have been much happier with that story, I think, because it's the jumping back and forth between it and Obi-Wan traveling to figure out the planet thing that I find most frustrating. When we get back with Amidala and Skywalker again, they are playing around with huge deer tick looking cow-sized things, and again, we can't stay in one story or scene even too long, so we must go back and establish that Jango is having Boba Fett hide stuff from the Jedi. The bounty hunter and his son seem to be running off back with Skywalker and Amidala because we just don't understand how to tell the story in a cohesive way. I wish they'd have made it clear how long these two have been hiding out together. This can't have just been one day, can it? The constant cuts make it feel like this is happening over more than one day, but then when you go to Obi-Wan's story, it feels like it could all be happening at a singular time, which makes it extra confusing. Padme takes me out of the movie saying, "We live in the real world." Okay, come on, George. You couldn't have done better than that? Anakin is willing to pull an All-American Rejects and be Padme's dirty little secret. I amused myself. As Kenobi goes to leave Kamino in a heavy storm, he sends a message to the Jedi Council and gets attacked by Jango, who didn't leave the planet with Boba, but rather was waiting to spring this surprise on the Jedi. When Mace and Yoda get the message about the bounty hunter, they want him brought in to the Jedi Council for questioning. Pretty sure that isn't going to happen as these two have a big fight. So much jumping around between Anakin and Obi-Wan. Anakin still having nightmares about his mother the next morning, and Padme knows he isn't okay. He wants to go check on his mother, and Padme says that she will go with him. Thank you for being here at Mr. Super Oz. This video is going out, and this channel only exists because I, Oz, founded Gamble Comics, which first release was Everlasting Survivors, a 68-page graphic novel called All Day Long. Available now. Follow the link in the description that will take you to gamblecomics.com. While there you can get hats, shirts, posters, much, much more, but most importantly, the story itself. Coming soon from Gamble Comics, BC Brute. The Kenobi versus Fett fight is so well done. Obi-Wan uses the Force to not fall to his death, which is helpful since he has a good deal of stuff that he still needs to do. Kenobi gets a tracker on the bounty hunter ship before it departs Kamino. As Skywalker and Amidala arrive on Tatooine, I wonder if we will see familiar faces, and quickly we see Watto. And he tells Anakin that he no longer owns Anakin's mother. She was bought by a man named Lars, who went on to marry her. The 10-year time jump bugs me. Jedi training or not, go see your mother, Anakin. Again, none of this would have been a problem had Hayden been cast in the first movie, because you would have not had the large age gap between Amidala and Skywalker, and you wouldn't have had him be gone for 10 years as to do the aged up thing. I mean, gone for a year, while not great without seeing your mother, more understandable. Year and a half, 2 years, more understandable than 10 years. Come on now, Anakin. Obi-Wan and Jango have a fun spaceship fight in an asteroid field. Very pretty. Jango and Boba think they blew up Obi-Wan when really they just made his trash explode when he dropped it out of the ship. Kenobi hides for a bit, then he lands his ship on a planet. Padme tells R2 to stay with the ship as she and Anakin go on the hunt for his mother. Amidala bumps into C-3PO, who takes Anakin and the ex-Queen to the Lars home. This is where we meet Owen and his wife for the first time. Owen informs Anakin that he is his stepbrother, and then Skywalker meets his mother's husband. Patriarch Lars tells Anakin that his mother is dead. She was taken by Tusken Raiders. He couldn't save her. Anakin is about to enter his big turning point, the place of no return. I'm uncertain as to where Obi-Wan is, but he figures out that the bounty on Amidala was placed by Count Dooku, a Jedi who turned heel and is now under the leadership of Darth Sidious, who clearly is Palpatine. Back on Tatooine, and Skywalker found the Raiders' camp. His mother is in bad shape, but not yet dead. She is so happy to see her boy. Mama Skywalker says, "I am now complete. I love you." And then she dies before she can finish her thought. Skywalker is enraged and he kills all the Tuskens. Not just the men, but the women and the children also. Mace Windu and Yoda feel the pain of Anakin running through the Force. Yoda declares something terrible has happened. Obi-Wan reaches out for Skywalker, but because he had a murder spree, he wasn't available, but R2 got the message and finds Padme and Anakin as he is bringing his mother's body home. Sad times for the Skywalkers. Anakin goes to a shed to work out his hard things. Working on machines is a calming mechanism for him. Anakin promises Padme he will find a way to stop death. While, yeah, you're in pain, man, I get that. But this is crazy. Amidala tells the truth that death is a part of life. Anakin declares to Padme the fact that he killed all of the Tuskens. He calls them animals and says that he slaughtered them like animals. How is she still just okay with him? I don't understand. I mean, like, maybe he's dreamy or something, but Anakin just doesn't feel like the type of person that you would stay with after he's like, "Oh, I killed everyone." I'm like, I don't know. It just feels puzzling. Obi-Wan is captured, and the Jedi Council tell Anakin not to go after him, but to stay with Padme. So she has the bright idea that she'll go save Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is kind of a cheat code so that Skywalker can also attempt to save his mentor. This is very similar to when Qui-Gon tells young Anakin to stay in the cockpit of the ship, and then it leads to him blowing up the droid thing, or command ship. Chancellor Palpatine is so good at the manipulation games. Obi-Wan and Count Dooku chatting it up is fun. Two great promo guys. Dooku wishes Qui-Gon Jinn was here to get his apprentice in line because Dooku trained Jinn, and the Count tells Obi-Wan that Darth Sidious controls the Senate, which is true, but Kenobi never knows what to believe when it comes from the mouth of a person from the dark side. And Count Dooku implies that Qui-Gon Jinn would actually be on his side. Yoda and Mace are at the Senate when Jar Jar votes to give the Chancellor supreme control and announces a new army for the Galactic Empire, an army that has been ordered over 10 years ago, although he doesn't tell them that part. Yoda goes to check out this clone army. R2-D2, C-3PO, Skywalker, and Amidala are all hunting for Obi-Wan. Padme tries not to get crushed while Anakin has some cool lightsaber action sequences with some machines. The droids are getting in so much trouble. C-3PO's head gets put on an attack droid's body, and vice versa for his body getting an attack droid's head put on it. R2-D2 saves Padme from getting cooked alive. Anakin's lightsaber gets destroyed, and his former queen are captured. Assuming they're going to be dying soon, Padme confesses her love for Anakin, which I do not get, but okay, they kiss. Then we see where they have been taken is also where Obi-Wan Kenobi is. I wonder if the logic is Padme, if she lived in the modern day, she'd be writing prisoners who are on death row for all of the killings they accomplished or whatever, racked up, and she'd be like, "Oh, I love you." I don't know, her feelings toward Anakin just blow me away. The three heroes are inside a larger open-air arena. Anakin says, "We came to rescue you," and Obi-Wan says, "Good job," since they are also captured. Before they can continue bantering, we get these huge creatures entering the arena, I guess to feast on the trio. All three do what they can to avoid certain death. One of the creatures is very dinosaur-like and just feels to me like another one is an oversized bug. When monsters don't kill the captured Jedi and the Senator, droids are sent in, but then the Jedi arrive, who get a big lightsaber versus droid battle. The crowd from the stadium have scattered as the droids shoot at the Jedi, and they use their lightsabers to deflect the shots. Jango saves Count Dooku, but Boba watches as Mace Windu takes his father's head off. Speaking of taking heads off, R2-D2 takes C-3PO's head off the droid body and then returns it to his actual body, so he's back in one piece. Yoda brings in the clone army to save the survivors. Yoda and the clone army accidentally leave R2 and C-3PO behind. Boba Fett is still there, and he's holding his father's head in his hands. This is some harsh stuff. The Sith and the Jedi seem to both know that the clones have given the Jedi the upper hand in this encounter. Count Dooku is taking the plans for the Death Star to Darth Sidious on a speeder, and Yoda is ordering the clones around like he is very battle-tested. Kenobi, Skywalker, and Amidala are chasing Dooku. Padme falls out of the ship they're in, and Anakin wants to turn back to save her, but Obi-Wan tells him to think of his duty. The former queen would want you to stay on mission. Then they catch up to Count Dooku, and the battle begins. Anakin doesn't listen and gets hit with a force lightning from the Count. Dooku and Kenobi then have a one-on-one saber fight. Clones find and help the former queen. Skywalker recovers and gets back in the fight, only to get his hand cut off. Yoda arrives to fight the Count. Very cool visuals for this fight. Lightning versus lightning, saber versus saber. Dooku turns and runs as Yoda saves the Jedi. Darth Sidious and Count Dooku meet to celebrate that we have war in the stars. Mace and Yoda talk about Obi-Wan needing to keep a closer eye on Palpatine, while Anakin and Padme get married in secret. Just the preacher, R2-D2, C-3PO, and, a mass murder. This is what every wedding needs, right, Padme? This was a completely passable 2 out of 5 stars. It was better than the first, but all of the jumping and the inconsistencies of staying with one singular story, just a few key edits, and this could have easily been a 4 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5. Because it weren't heavy changes that needed to be made, just things in the middle needed to be clarified, timelines needed to be cleaned up, and I would also rather Padme not know that her lover is a mass killer if she's going to end up marrying him and burying his children. Like, that's just, it makes her seem like a real, blinded person, or maybe even worse, an actual villain. Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, released in 2005, ran 2 hours and 13 minutes. What a year for young Oz. He enlisted in the Army on April 15th of 2005, spent 9 weeks at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and then 12 weeks at Fort Lee, Virginia, before going to Wheeler Army Airfield on the island of Oahu, Hawaii. The movie starts out with Chancellor Palpatine being captured by droids. 2 Jedi have been sent to free him. Obviously, those 2 are Anakin and Obi-Wan. The scrolling text didn't say it, but they're sent everywhere, as if Kenobi and Skywalker are the only Jedi. Big, beautiful space fight to start, and yep, just as predicted, the 2 Jedi are the exact Jedi we all expected it to be. This rescue is pointless, since we all know that the man who was captured is actually the leader of the folks who pretended to capture him. But hey, the Jedi, I guess, are not exactly the brightest bulbs in the bunch. And so the Jedi are here to save the Supreme Chancellor. It seems like just a matter of time before the tables get turned and he reveals that he is Darth Sidious. Anakin seems to be better at listening to Obi-Wan. Never mind, he ignores him again. Not listening was the right choice this time, as Skywalker is able to save Kenobi from certain death. The seamless move from space fight to lightsaber fight was, well, it was smooth. Obi-Wan expects it to be a trap, so he and Anakin attempt to outsmart those who have Palpatine. R2-D2 was key to the Jedi sneaking in, and the droid almost got caught, which was fun. I like that this has been the least convoluted movie of the trilogy so far. All the stuff that is happening in one place, and all the aspects are being told very organized like. Count Dooku versus Skywalker and Kenobi, round 2, this time with the Chancellor watching on, just like the big bad manipulator he is. And the fight is going very well. Count Dooku is basically using Yoda's fear, hate, and anger phraseology again, only he seems to not see them as negatives, as if they make him and Palpatine happy. With Obi-Wan down and out, the Chancellor tells Anakin to kill the Count. When Skywalker does kill Count Dooku, he regrets it, but Palpatine reminds Anakin that he knows that this isn't his first kill, as the Supreme Chancellor knows about the Tusken Raiders that Anakin killed in the prior film. What a way to submit your friendship by telling someone that you killed an entire camp of a kind. As they escape, Palpatine tells Anakin to leave Obi-Wan behind, but he can't, so Skywalker carries Kenobi out to safety. During the escape, the gravity goes out on the ship, leading to Obi-Wan, Anakin, R2, and the Chancellor all being captured. What a great rescue. General Grievous and the Jedi have an awesome fight, and in the exchange, Grievous breaks his own ship's window to get away from the Jedi that he was fighting. Anakin lands what is left of the ship. Obi-Wan says, "Another happy landing." Kenobi is going to the Jedi Council while Anakin is with Palpatine. Not cool. Skywalker needs to stay away from that guy. Mace Windu promises to make finding Grievous the Jedi's top priority, as this war in the stars can be finished. My words, not his. Padme and Anakin kiss in private. She is still worried about the relationship being found out, but he no longer cares. Padme tells her husband she is pregnant, and he says this is wonderful, and it is the happiest moment of his life. The whole franchise has been good to look at. When we see General Grievous hiding out, he reaches out for communication to Darth Sidious, who is concerned with the loss of Count Dooku, but Palpatine states he is about to get a much younger and more powerful apprentice. The Chancellor is very confident. Padme is planning to have the new Skywalker baby on Naboo. She thinks she knows the best place to keep this private, possibly the same place that she and Anakin kissed, is my guess. Much like before, with the death of his mother, Anakin is now having nightmares about Padme dying in childbirth. Harsh times in the mind of Skywalker. Obi-Wan informs Anakin that the Council want him to use his relationship with Palpatine to figure out where he stands, so basically spy on him. Mace and Yoda speak of the prophecy, and Yoda points out prophecies can be misread. Padme longs for simpler times as she and Anakin embrace. She wonders if the Senate has become what they fought so hard to resist. Palpatine is joined in a skybox by Anakin for some show of some sort, and Darth Sidious can tell that Skywalker is in turmoil. The Supreme Chancellor calls the shot, assuming that the Jedi Council has told Anakin to keep an eye out on him. He says that the Jedi want power. Palpatine says Sith and Jedi are almost identical in every way. Very good writing for this villain. It almost feels like he's about to reveal himself to Skywalker, especially when the Chancellor brings up a story from the Sith, that being Darth Plagueis the Wise. Plagueis was able to influence midi-chlorians to create life. He could also stop death. Part of me wonders if Palpatine is telling Anakin this since, in the first film, his mother said that he had no father. Is this George telling us how/why Anakin had no dad? Anakin does not care about the creation of life part. He's got that down. What he wants to know is how to stop death. We go to Planet Wookiee. Yoda is joining the Jedi Council via Zoom call. The Council have voted to send Obi-Wan after General Grievous, even though the Supreme Chancellor wants it to be Skywalker. As Kenobi and Skywalker say goodbye, Obi-Wan tells Anakin how that he is greater than he had ever hoped for him to become. And while it is surely kind, it seems just a bit over the top, given I know how the movie ends. The clones of Jango and Obi-Wan plan out the attack on General Grievous, and it seems like Anakin is now having nightmares during the daytime. He confesses to Padme that he feels lost. Anakin is so angry, but if you can't sleep and you think that you know your wife will die in childbirth, those are understandable reasons to be angry. Padme promises not to die in childbirth, as if that is within her control. I like the aliens on the planet Obi-Wan lands on. Whoever was in charge of character design hit a home run in this franchise. Kenobi hears Grievous laying out his plans as he rides in on a cool creature. This is that famous "hello there" meme. This leads to a great General Grievous versus General Kenobi lightsaber duel. Grievous using 4 sabers at once is very much not fair. Obi-Wan is so skilled that he's able to keep up until the clones arrive. That allows Grievous to get away from the saber battle. Mace sends Anakin to give Padme the news about Kenobi finding/fighting Grievous, and Skywalker is clearly being manipulated by the Chancellor to join him on the dark side, as he reveals that he knows Darth Plagueis' secret to defeating death, and this is when Anakin both listens to Darth Sidious, but realizes that his friend, the Chancellor, was Darth Sidious the whole time. The Chancellor explains that he knows both the light and the dark side of the Force, so the Chancellor asks Skywalker if he will kill him, and Anakin refuses to kill the Chancellor. Obi-Wan and General Grievous are fighting again, and here we see that Grievous, who is a machine, for some reason has what appears to be human organs, or maybe not human, but at least physical heart. That reveal felt odd to me, but maybe it's just to establish that when he gets killed by Kenobi, he's done and isn't just a regular droid who can be turned off and back on. At the Jedi Council, Anakin tells Mace of his discovery that Palpatine is Darth Sidious, and Windu tells Skywalker to wait here. If what he says is true, then he will have gained Mace Windu's full trust. Anakin has more daytime nightmares. Any chance these are being forced into his head by Darth Sidious to help turn him to the dark side? I don't know. It was never said, but I just don't get the not being able to clear your mind, I guess. And so that's why it felt understandable if it was forced upon him. Padme looks sad, and the whole film has taken on a hushed tone, only for Anakin to ignore Mace as he goes to arrest Palpatine, saying that I am the Senate, another very big meme moment. Darth Sidious kills multiple Jedi, and he and Mace Windu are at odds when Anakin arrives. He tries to prevent Windu from killing Palpatine, but this only allows the Chancellor, Darth Sidious, Palpatine, whatever you want to call him, to kill Samuel L. Jackson, or at least make it seem as though he's probably dead since he got knocked out a window. Skywalker agrees to join the dark side when Darth Sidious renames him from Anakin to Darth Vader. Far away, Yoda can feel that something bad has happened. Sidious sends Vader to the Jedi Temple. Darth Sidious declares once again the Sith will rule the galaxy. We will have peace. Crazy times. Chancellor Palpatine, who is also Darth Sidious, calls for Order 66, and now all the clones in the army are on the side of the Sith, so the crew that was on the side of Obi-Wan is now against him, and the clones with Yoda on planet Wookiee are against him. All of the clones with Anakin, well, they don't need to turn since he's already turned to their side by becoming Darth Vader, and they're all headed to, well, make some bad things happen. Obi-Wan and Yoda outsmart the clones that try to kill them. Anakin is clearly no more, and Vader is in full effect since he has killed every Jedi youngling. C-3PO tells Padme of Skywalker's return to the Jedi Temple, and she cries thinking he is in danger, but he is the danger. Clones pull weapons on Senator Organa, the soon-to-be father figure for Leia. Yoda says goodbye to Chewbacca as he is rallying to try and help any remaining Jedi. Obi-Wan is also making his way back to the temple. Darth Vader goes to Padme, and he tells her that he saw Mace Windu try to kill the Supreme Chancellor, and how that the Jedi have turned on the Senate. She asks about Obi-Wan, and he replies that he doesn't know, but he departs to end the war with the Separatists. C-3PO tells R2-D2 that Anakin is clearly stressed. Yoda, Kenobi, and Organa meet to plan, and Obi-Wan wants to try to save any Jedi that haven't been got. Sidious tells the Separatists that Darth Vader is on his way to take care of them, but they misunderstand and think he's coming to help them. When Darth Vader arrives, he tells R2 to stay with the ship. He then enters the room to meet with the Separatists and kills all of them. In the Senate, the Supreme Chancellor declares that the Jedi will be hunted down and defeated since he blames them for his disfigurement, the one that he actually brought on himself by not stopping to use lightning against Mace Windu. To bolster his ego, he also says how the Jedi want his power. When Yoda and Kenobi see what happened to the younglings, Yoda warns Obi-Wan not to look at the security feed. When Kenobi sees what his apprentice did, he says he can't kill him, even though that footage should have made it clear that Skywalker is already dead. Yoda goes after Sidious, and Kenobi goes to Padme to figure out where her husband is. She doesn't tell him, but Obi-Wan is smart, and like in the first film where he and Qui-Gon hid in the ship, so he hides in her craft, unknowingly to her, as she takes him to Darth Vader. Obi-Wan also puts the pieces together, and he now knows that Padme's child, or should I say children, are the children of his former apprentice. When Padme lands and she sees her husband, he is so dark, basically all consumed by the dark side. She tells him that he is breaking her heart, and then he force chokes his wife. Time for the biggest, longest, and most challenging fight. Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Don't Call Me Anakin Skywalker Vader. At the same time, Yoda confronts Darth Sidious. This is 100% the best Star Wars film so far in the franchise. These two fights are among the best of the best. Obi-Wan and Vader force push each other away, and then seemingly that leads to this lava planet base seemingly collapsing, perhaps. maybe it's based on something that was bumped, or maybe it was already unstable. I'm not sure. But it just looks cool. As this will help get Darth Vader in the condition that he needs to be in for Episode 4, which becomes A New Hope. Well, and Episode 4. It gets Anakin's body in the condition it needs to be in so that Darth Vader can look like he looked the first time Star Wars came out. Yoda loses his lightsaber, but he and the Galactic Emperor, the Supreme Chancellor, Darth Sidious Palpatine, have a lightning bolt battle that sends Yoda down, potentially where his lightsaber may have fallen. Obi-Wan and Darth Vader are going at it nonstop. Yoda calls for help from Senator Organa. Yoda escapes with his life, but is ashamed and feels he deserves to be exiled. The amazing hover saber fight is so well done. Obi-Wan feels as if he failed his student since he joined up with the evil Empire, and Darth Vader says to Kenobi that to him, the Jedi are evil. This tells Obi-Wan that all is lost. Darth Vader is the only one here. There is no Anakin Skywalker left to save. He even says, "Don't try it, I have the high ground." And his opponent, Darth Vader, believes that Kenobi once again is underestimating him. So Vader attempts to leap over at Obi-Wan, but he cuts off both of Darth Vader's legs. He is laying on this lava planet in pain and cries out, "I hate you," as Obi-Wan says, "I loved you like a brother." R2-D2 and C-3PO meet with Kenobi, and C-3PO tells Obi-Wan they must leave this dreadful place, as Padme only cares if Anakin is alright, and he really isn't. She also really isn't alright either. The scraps of Darth Vader are collected by clones and Darth Sidious so they can make him into the Frankenstein's monster he was always destined to be. Yoda gets told of Obi-Wan reaching out to Senator Organa to try and get help for Padme and the children. At the same time, Sidious has Vader go in for his upgrade. This medical robot tells Padme she is having twins, and she names the boy Luke and the girl Leia, as we knew that they would be named. Leia is seemingly born at the same moment that Darth Vader is reborn in the way that we recognize from the original trilogy. Padme dies as Obi-Wan is holding Luke. All Darth Vader cares about after his reconstruction is if Padme is alright, and as just one extra nail in that Anakin Skywalker coffin, Darth Sidious tells Darth Vader that he killed Padme. Vader is in pain. He knows Padme was alive when last he saw her, even though he was really choking the life out of her, so it's kind of believable that he could have. Senator Organa, Yoda, and Obi-Wan plan to split up the children. Organa takes Leia, and Obi-Wan is tasked with taking Luke to Tatooine to be with the Lars family. Yoda says something about Obi-Wan needing to link up with Qui-Gon. I guess he means like that Force Ghost version of Qui-Gon Jinn. We see Jar Jar at the funeral of Padme, and thankfully, neither he nor any of the Gungans speak. Sidious and Vader look over the construction of the Death Star as Luke and Leia are both in the homes we know them to be from in Star Wars, the original film, that becomes known as A New Hope later on. This was a very good 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't jumpy like the prior one. It wasn't bad jokey like the first one. Like, everything improved dramatically. I think the only reason it falls short of that 5 out of 5 stars is due to the foundation that it was being built upon was so weak. But thankfully, the movie itself finished strong, and it makes me much more looking forward to continuing to watch films in this franchise, since next up will be a catch-up video for Solo, A Star Wars Story, and after that will be another catch-up in Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, followed by the original Star Wars trilogy coming in 2025.